We're now kind of moving on to the last segment of this dialogue, last but not least. We are joined by Eszter from REACH. She is a researcher at LT University. I'm not sure how to pronounce this, but maybe you can correct us, me in a moment. In Budapest, they are a partner in the project REACH, and we're joined by Aziliz, who is a postdoctoral researcher at KU Leuven in the Faculty of Engineering Science, and she is the scientific coordinator of the Horizon project Ilucidare. They will just give you some brief input and talk about what partnerships mean for their projects. And we also have some links that we'll be sharing with you if you're interested in that and want to explore that further. And of course, they're also available to answer your questions. So I think we'll start now with Eszter, with you. And I have your presentation, if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you.
Yes, I do. So you can go ahead and yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Jasmine. Okay, so let's jump into my presentation. So I'm representing here REACH project. It's another Horizon 2020 project which started in 2017 and was supposed to finish already in October, but because of the COVID situation, we got a few months extension. So we are still at the final phase of our project, which was focusing on redesigning access to cultural heritage for a wider participation in preservation, reuse, and management of European heritage. So our keyword was participation, participatory heritage, and we were supposed to create social platforms in 4 heritage sectors. So we had 4 pilot projects in institutional heritage, rural heritage, small town heritage, and minority heritage, which was our project in Hungary. And we were focusing on Roma heritage, which was quite a special initiative or attempt. Roma heritage in itself wasn't researched in this way so far in EU project. So if maybe Yasmin, you can put the second slide. So well, there is no time to present the entire project, and I will try to focus on our approach to partnerships. So one of our main objectives in our whole pilot project was indeed the building of a network between Roma cultural and educational organizations in Hungary. This was quite a challenge. I was already reflecting to this in the breakout room. There is, without going into details, there is a generally hostile political climate toward civil societies, and like historically speaking, Hungarian society is very xenophobic, and there is a very xenophobic mentality toward Roma communities in Hungary. So these 2 factors mean that we had to face a difficult and fragile situation when looking for participatory Roma heritage practices. So we thought that probably the need is even bigger to find these cultural organizations and to put them into contact and to create sustainable and vivid cooperations and partnerships. So as you can see on the list, we were trying to discover or retrace all kinds of different organizations, public and private ones, cultural and educational institutions. We also were in contact with voluntary structures, with local galleries, collections owned and funded by municipalities and also private bodies. We also found Roma-led NGOs, which are typically supported by foreign or international grants, as there is very little states to support towards these kind of cultural initiatives. I just put here a short citation from one of our partners, István Gerendási, who is the director of the Talentum Art School. This is a very specific educational institution, which is the only place basically in Hungary where you can learn traditional Roma music. And this is something, the so-called RICO method, which is listed on the UNESCO National Intangible Cultural Heritage List. So on the one hand, this is something the institution preserves such a cultural heritage which is awarded, which is preserved in an institutionalized way. But on the other hand, they lack state support, they have very little visibility, and they are quite isolated from other cultural institutions. So even them, they find themselves in difficult situation. But this is something that we found in general in our project, that the Roma cultural institutions are typically very fragmented, isolated, and marginalized in general. So our aim to put them into contact and to encourage them to collaborate and to develop further their participatory practices was not an easy project. If maybe I can say some more concrete examples about a gallery, the so-called Gallery 8, which was the only and the first Roma contemporary art gallery in Budapest, and they were one of our main associated partners, but they just ceased to exist in the middle of our project. Or another example, the Eszter, or the glove, in English, the Glove Factory Community Center. It's a typically, like for you or for OpenHeritage, this is an eminent example of reusing formerly industrial building, so a glove factory, which is used as a community center for some years now, in the middle of a gentrified, rehabilitated urban area in Budapest. But also due to different political factors or political municipal changes, they were also supposed to be our like important associated partners, and we just loosened the partnership with them. So we found out that we had to be, as researchers from the university, we had to be very proactive in organizing encounters and meetings, and then building these partnerships. And we also found out that these partnerships or these collaborative movements are not exclusively about protecting or reusing heritage, but they also comprehend very often either educational activities or activist practices, like belonging to some kind of civil rights movement about protecting and keeping Roma identity, not only in a cultural sense, but also in political terms as well. So I think this is what I wanted to say very quickly. And of course, this is just a list of some of our main associated partners. And of course, if you have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Eszter, I think we'll move on to the next presentation, and then if you have any questions, we'll address them both in the end, because we can also then see how much time we have left. But thank you very much for your input for now. And then Aziliz, I think we'll move straight to you, and I think you wanted to share your own slides. Yes.
So I think I'm sharing the screen now and going full screen.
Perfect.
So hello everyone. I'm Aziliz from the University of Leuven. I'm here to represent our project Ilucidare. Before I start, thank you very much to the organizers to contact us. And moreover, thank you very much for all the cases I've seen and heard here today. I'm super enthusiastic about it. They sound very interesting, and bit of a spoiler already, I think all of them or many of them can also be classified as really innovations through heritage. So let me give you a small pitch and some insights from our project, which I personally feel it could be very interesting for the discussion on sharing and caring, I think is the title, so on the partnerships. So the title of our project is building international connections for heritage-led innovation. So we did start as quite an ambitious project. So here today, I will mainly focus on one component of our project, which is heritage-led innovation. For us, yeah, the main challenge to start with is basically how do you marry these very big two concepts, heritage, which is maybe a bit, yeah, things that are in the past, the things that used to be, and what we say that is innovation. So just merely, maybe for your curiosity, or maybe to place the topic of adaptive reuse in innovation. This is the working definition that we developed for heritage-led innovation. So you can see that there are four main components. So an innovation starts when you generate new knowledge, which often in our sector, then the heritage sector, comes from interdisciplinary work. And I think for most of the cases that I saw here today, that's definitely the case. You came up with new ideas because of intersecting of disciplines. The core of an innovation is that you basically improve what was going on. I think that's a checkbox for all the adaptive reuse cases we saw here today. A third very important point is that an innovation needs to be tested or implemented. So do not just stick to an idea. Again, the cases here that we saw today are definitely aligned with that. And then the final point is it's never you as an innovator or a creative thinker who gets to decide if your innovation is working. No, it's up to the market and society to do that for you. When I was asked to say something about partnerships, I was pleasantly surprised and anxious. So as part of our research, and this is a small part that I want to present here today, we've been mapping a lot of cases in Europe that basically have all 4 points of the innovation definition checkboxed. We mapped about 130. And for those 130 cases, yeah, we analyzed several components of the cases. And this is one thing that I wanted to show here today. When you look at who are the people who initiate new innovation projects, so several of them are also adaptive reuse cases, we see that most of the cases today are actually started by people working in academics, research, or education. And much less or almost none in business sector or coming from government or civil society, which is of course very unfortunate. But then if you look into cases that have been quite successful and have been around for several years, on the long term, we see that new innovation cases and adaptive reuse cases, even though they were often started by the, let's say, the research and education sector, they're actually carried onwards by civil society. Business also comes a bit more in play. So I think that's a very interesting given when you're working on your projects, that it's always good to know that, okay, we're here now starting something, but also envisage yourself in 5 to 10 years, hopefully project is still around, who is carrying the stuff then? I mean, it's very unlikely that it will be all the same people who were there from the start. So when talking about partnerships, I think this is something interesting to take into account. Just because, yeah, I heard it returning a lot, also looking at the scale of the cases. We have cases in really rural areas, a bit more city-focused cases. I also wanted to show this, is also part of our research, is basically where do these innovations driven by heritage take place? I think we can confirm what we heard today. It's mainly in cities. The rural areas or villages are not so highly represented when it comes to really getting new ideas and implementing heritage-led innovations. Interestingly enough, a large portion is the last column. Other for us is basically network societies, institutions who work across borders, across countries. So they're actually also very active in implementing innovations. Okay, wait, maybe just to mention here, something that I also found interesting in terms of partnerships is that we always compare heritage-led innovations to the traditional R&D sector who are making microchips or whatever, or new phones in their laboratories. Something that we found, again, relating to partnerships, very interesting is that us in the heritage sectors are way more inclined to setting up a network and collaborate with others. People who work in labs and R&D, when they have an idea, they tend to patent it and work in a very small niche to really get their idea to the market. Well, for us, it's very intrinsic in the sector to try to reach out to communities, to local actors, etc., to collaborate, make the idea better, and gradually evolve it. I think we heard that with all the cases today, so that was very interesting to hear how those tendencies were also present there. Maybe something that we also found that I didn't hear yet here today is that when we extend our networks in the sector, we also do tend to look across sectors. So especially we hear that, okay, governments, businesses are not always interested in financing when it comes to old heritage buildings or sites. We found several interesting examples where heritage buildings where basically an adaptive reuse process took place with money coming from a sector that's absolutely not related to heritage. One of the cool examples that I keep quoting is Ireland. They had a whole set of like traditional farm buildings close by the coast. They were in a very bad state. The farmers had no money to basically restore them, but they're really part of the landscape. So they were looking for a project, or more specifically financing, which I think is also part of the discussion today. And they found it in the most unusual place. In the end, they got their financing from the Department of Diversity and Environment. And why did they invest in those buildings? Is basically because the bat population, so the bat, really the animal, the night animal that flies, they live in thatched roofs of farms, but they're really a threatened population in Ireland by the coast side. So they asked money to the environment department of the government. They gave it. They did adaptive reuse of the farm buildings. The bats get to live. The houses are restored. So I think something again intrinsic to the sector, something that I didn't really hear, is we like to think outside of the box, look for people in other sectors and work with them. And another thing that I wanted to show that I quickly added here is someone said this very interesting sentence throughout the sessions today: can bottom-up initiatives contribute to local innovations? I thought that that's a great idea. That's something that we've been working on. What you see here is a model that we have developed. It's not purely from us, I have to admit. We did a lot of research in terms of innovation. So we are mixing new Darwinism with economics of change, with long-term innovation analyses. And one of the points that you have to keep in mind when you start an adaptive reuse case, or an heritage-led innovation for that matter, is that no matter how cool or how purposeful your idea and innovation is, it's not always bound to become applied on the longer term or applied in the future. So what I want to say is, in terms of partnerships, we kind of made it into a treasure map to be more attractive for the people, for entrepreneurs. So we are here today. All the projects that we heard are like on the starting points. We saw a lot of people with great ideas, great heritage resources, and they're starting to implement projects. With our treasure map, which is still, well, we're still developing it, so we hope to get input from people like you. You are there. The thing to make your project really sustainable on the long term, and to get it accepted, not just by you, but also government or even other sectors, there is two things that you really have to take into account. Is one, you need to expand your outreach and try to gain momentum with your idea so that it's eventually accepted by the society at large. And on the other hand, also look at the top of the treasure map. It's always good to try to look for windows of opportunities that you are not always aware of. So windows of opportunities can come from environmental changes or big economic changes on a landscape level. So this is kind of a treasure map that we are developing. We are not developing it just by ourselves. We are doing that in a co-creation process with experts from Europe, from different parts of Europe. We also have a partner in Central Europe, in Poland. But a big part of our project is to also see if these ideas and concepts of how heritage can contribute to innovations are true, is also recognized and validated by partners outside of EU. So basically what we do is setting up knowledge exchanges on a global scale. We work in different parts of the world. If this is something that you want to hear more about, please contact us, but I don't want to go too much in detail on that. What I did want to show is this slide is just a small recap of who we are. You can see the partners in blue at the bottom. We are a small consortium of 8 partners, but I think we're all very enthusiastic and a bit crazy in our own way. So we run for 3 years. We still will be running until 2022. And basically, I show you the website, our social media channels. Again, the cases today, I really love them. They fit in our idea of heritage-led innovation. And we are now setting up co-creation ateliers to basically discuss how you as a person, when you have an idea, how do you get it to the stage that you are at? How do you make it a project? So if you would be interested to share your experience with us and then eventually get featured in some of our handbooks and basically tell us how did you do it, don't hesitate to contact us, check our website, and I'm sure that through the organizers you can also get my contacts. So please do share your great experience with us. Thank you very much. And thank you again to the organizers.
Thank you very much, Aziliz.